The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report. Dom Knight here with Andrew Hansen and...
Sorry to cut you off like that, Dom. Producer Lachlan interrupting with a quick producer note before handing back to the guys. Just going to address the elephant in the room, which is that we will not be covering the death of the Queen in this episode of the Chaser Report. Basically, over the last couple of days, the Chaser have been inundated with responses to our reaction to the Queen's passing. Some people thought we were too soon, making light of such a somber topic, which we regret. So, on the podcast, out of respect, we will not be covering the death of Her Majesty the Queen for 24 hours. It's really the least we can do. And hey, if you don't like it, you can always complain to the Daily Mail, because Lord knows the last thing this podcast needs is more attention. All right, that's enough from me. Back to Dom and Andrew.
Andrew, you've got some crime news for us today.
Look, I do, Dommy. It's a bit of crime, and this is a bit alarming. It's also a bit of a public service announcement, I feel, for you. And not you personally, Dommy, but you listening.
You listener. Yeah, this is where you come. You come to the Chaser Report for important community service announcements.
Well, this is really worrying, but somebody in Adelaide discovered that in the morning they woke up and discovered these strange, mysterious markings outside their house, and painted onto their house, I should say, according to the news. And there were these kind of vertical lines, but there were also letters. These letters had been painted outside their house. Somebody had painted NT on the side of their house. And then they went online and they said, look, somebody's done this to my house. What does it mean? Should I be worried?
Who's making these markings? Do we know who's? Is it the council? You know how occasionally the pavement, the council will write some sort of weird letters on the pavement here in Sydney, but I've never seen an NT or an S.
Well, maybe in Adelaide the council just comes right up to your house and just paints in ugly letters right on the side of the building, to help them with the bin collection or something like that. That's what I wondered at first. I mean, what would you guess?
Well,
what do you think NT stands for?
I mean, there's so many possibilities, and someone from the Northern Territory,
maybe
could be a possibility.
They might have just visited.
Yeah, and just to shame them. Well, the S, I presume in Adelaide is serial killer, wouldn't it be?
Well, it could be. It could be, because there was another house with an S on it. I'd be worried myself if I had these letters. I can tell you the answer, Dommy. I think they were nice guesses, but you're incorrect. They posted on Reddit, and a whole lot of people helped out by saying, yeah, these things are painted on people's houses by burglars.
By burglars? Oh, if it's burglars, does NT mean no television? Perhaps we've checked it out. There's no television. Or does it mean
close? Very close.
Does it mean, because Adelaide thing's a bit old-fashioned? Does it mean there's a computer there with Windows NT that you can steal if you don't mind having a computer from 1991?
It's a warning to other burglars: don't bother with this house. It's got a Windows NT computer. It's completely valueless. No, it means I'll tell you what it is. It means no threat. No threat.
No threat.
Whereas S, if you've got S painted on your house, that means security. So burglars are saying to other burglars, this house has security. Whereas the NT houses represent no threat.
Are we sure this is right? Because if this is the code, all you need to do in order to never be burgled is to go outside and just write S.
outside your house.
And why would burglars want to leave messages to other burglars?
Yes, I'm not sure. I wouldn't have thought burglars would be so generous. You'd think they'd sort of...
It's like a message board to other burglars. Passing on the information. That's very strange. And surely if they'd burgled
a lovely community.
If they'd already been there and they'd taken all the valuables, what's the point of advising whether there's security or not?
Yeah, exactly. I know, unless it's... maybe they're nicer than we thought, and that there's actually like a sort of good karma group on Facebook for burglars who are just trying to help each other out in difficult times. Maybe some burglars...
a community lending library, right? So you just take what you need.
Yeah.
It's like, rather than the books being on the outside, you just take the things from inside the house. But don't take more than you need on any one particular day.
Well, I think the lending libraries are a great idea. Like those. You mean those street libraries?
The street library, yeah, that's right.
Is that what you're thinking?
So they're just treating the house like, well, if there's multiple televisions, just take one if you need it, and then if you need another one, there'll be one for the next burglar.
And why not bring it back when you're finished? I mean, this
yes.
is the thing that, I think a really nice burglar and a community-minded burglar would simply, take the TV, watch or binge,
Binge series.
the series, watch the last season of Better Call Saul or whatever, and then return the television to the house when done.
Wouldn't that be lovely? If I once had a laptop stolen and it came back a year or two later. The police managed to track it down somewhere at the point where it was basically scratched beyond all repair and not enormous use. But I appreciated the thought that presumably
it might have been a nice burglar.
Some burglar had just, enjoyed it for a little while, done their uni assignments or whatever, and just given it back.
I'd like to live in a society like this, Dommy, where, if somebody does really need an appliance, just for the day, they could pop in or smash into your house and take your coffee machine, for example, and go and make themselves a latte and then just bring it back the next morning.
Absolutely. And I mean, if someone uses, I don't know, a deadly weapon or something, people will just dump them in rivers or something. Don't do that. Just return it.
Yeah.
As though it were from a library
style. Street library style, but just sort of house library. It's kind of like an appliance. Your house is basically an appliance library.
So maybe I'll act on this. If I just put all the valuable things in our house outside the house with little notes saying, take what you need and return it, we'll never be burgled. Presumably you could put NT on our house.
Yeah, you'll be borrowed from. I think it's a good idea. I had some ideas, Dommy. I want to run you through some ideas for some other sort of acronyms that you could paint on different types of houses as well.
Yeah, what other things could you write on houses if you're going to be labelling people like this?
Yeah, well, I think CL, cat lady. Maybe she.
So sometimes the urine of the cats also.
Well, that gives it away.
Message.
That gives it away. You could write CL in cat urine if you really wanted to. Yeah. Here's another one for you. SPH, score pot here. Every neighbourhood needs to know, where you can do that.
That's very
big
very
SPH,
good.
big SPH on that house.
Don't you remember there was always the theory, and this is what this whole story reminded me of, that where there were a pair of shoes thrown over the electricity wire, that meant it was a drug meetup. Do you remember that theory? That's what.
Yeah, well, I thought there were about 500 theories for what the shoes mean.
That was the most common one I've heard.
That's one of them.
It made me think that
I've heard that.
They weren't really thinking about whether the police would know where the drug meetups were. I think score pot here has a similar problem. Wouldn't you put don't score pot here, DSPH?
Oh, that
and
would
then everyone would know
off.
that's the place where you go and get the drugs, except for
that's true. Everyone except the police would realise, and whereas the policeman would walk on by. Oh, nothing to see here, boys. This is not the house where we score pot.
The Chaser Report. News you can't trust.
Here's another one for you that I'd like to run by you, which I think could be useful. It's simply NN.
NN.
Nosy neighbour.
Oh, see.
Just warn people.
Nosy neighbour is good. When you said NN, I thought it was going to be no NBN, which basically means that there's an NBN connection.
Most houses
with the NBN.
No, that's a default setting, Don. You don't need to
write.
Need to say
Nosy neighbour is good.
Well, nosy, especially if for people who are house hunting, for example, like it does a favour to somebody who might be thinking of renting, but if you've got a nosy neighbour in that, next door, you want to know about this.
Well,
before
actually,
you move in.
that reminds me when I first moved, because I live very near Charles when he's not over in America gallivanting around. And quite seriously, when I first moved into the neighbourhood, he took great delight in walking me down the street and pointing out where all the swingers were. To this house, that house, that's where the swingers are. So maybe the S could mean, there's actually apparently quite a few in our suburb. The S could be swingers. Or maybe people get confused with security. Maybe you need another little logo, SH swingers here or something, or swingers welcome. Just to let everyone know that that's where the sex parties are. Or SP for sex parties. Because it'd be an awkward thing otherwise. If there wasn't a label of some kind, you'd knock on a door in your bondage gear thinking it might be a house where there was an option.
Well, and discover it's not. I mean,
it'd be easier if there was a labelling system.
Sounds like on your street that'd be unlikely. Sounds like you could knock on every second door and there'd be a swingers party.
We need a system for our door telling them not to come in.
Yeah, just DCI. Don't come in.
Don't come. No coming.
Come in
here. Yes, that's right. In many respects. Yeah. Well, this is a good system. I mean, it might lead a little bit to judgment and labelling, but
I think
in some respects it saves time, doesn't it?
I think it's very handy. It would save a lot of time. I've got another one for you. which may be useful to some people. This one is HACA.
HACA.
Hoarder, as featured on A Current Affair.
All right.
I mean, that might be obvious too, because usually the front yard is piled up high.
Well,
Piled
actually,
up very, very high.
You could also just label ACA if someone in the house worked on ACA, and that would mean you're morally justified in going through their bins.
Yeah, that's right. And putting your foot in the door.
You could just anytime you saw them coming out, you could just put your foot in the door and ask them difficult questions, and they wouldn't be able to object.
Angry question. Poke a microphone through there.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Why won't you talk to me? Here's one for the Times for you, Dommy. A timely one.
Yeah.
I think this should actually be painted on a lot of homes that are popping up in Australia. Is UNB, ugly new build.
Oh,
I think that's anything built in the last 5 years is hideous, right? It's almost like developers are sort of having a competition at the moment to see who can build the ugliest house in Australian history, and there should be a warning, I think, just painted on the side of these houses.
I mean, you could also tell by looking at them in that case, I suppose.
Oh, true. Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I take your point. Yes. Yes, okay.
Could we perhaps just have a W?
Oh, yeah.
A W for woke, meaning that if you got into a conversation with them, firstly, you'd know to mind your pronouns, and secondly, you'd know that the conversation might go for a very, very long time.
And yes, and be very difficult with you unable to feel that you can say anything at all.
I guess in a similar vein, should we write CR outside Craig Rucastle's house, just so that everyone around knows that, there'll be some endless conversation about straws, won't there?
Yeah, some painful environmental lecture. That's a great idea. I think any house that Craig Rucastle lives in should come with a warning.
I saw him tweet this week, Andrew, about his new e-bike and the wonderful benefits of his e-bike.
Yes.
Didn't we used to make fun of people like that back in the day? Isn't that what we used to do? He said, I've got 100 kilometres on the e-bike now. It's fantastic.
Once upon a time. Well, you should take it up with him, Dommy. You should answer that tweet.
I won't take it up with him. I'll simply label his house as a public service.
Well, yeah. Label his house CR and maybe EB. Maybe write EB on his e-bike for him.
Actually, that's genuinely a concern. I mean, if you just mention the word when you're, doing a radio show or something, if you mention the word e-bike, everyone will ring just to tell you. You'll get inundated. I mean, at a dinner party. It's like if you've gone vegan or something. You just cannot. That's the end of the conversation. That's an hour. Because that's
a big thing.
But it goes up hills.
It goes. That's the difference with an e-bike to a normal bike, isn't it? It goes up a hill.
Yeah, the thing that makes you fit, you don't do.
Well, that sounds rather good for me. But it kind of doesn't work. My problem with an e-bike is you still have to sort of be fit enough to bother sitting on a bike and doing the balancing and all that sort of stuff. And you kind of have to move your legs anyway. So I feel that they sit in this sort of uncanny valley between a vehicle for healthy people and a vehicle for lazy slobs like you and me.
I agree. I completely agree. I can't see the point of them whatsoever. Because the thing about bikes are
not for anyone.
They're incredibly dangerous. Almost everyone who rides a bike regularly, including our good friend Charles, who had entirely shattered his elbow, admittedly while cycling, drunkenly after Yamcha with Sam Dastiari. That's another story.
Yeah, he was CUI, wasn't he? Cycling under the influence.
Yes, which we should probably put on his house as well. Or just under the influence. It's probably right at its house.
CU something.
Charles under the influence.
Oh, we could combine the original NT with CU, and I think we'd have a very good thing to ride on his house.
Yes, indeed. No, but look, this is the thing. I don't understand about e-bikes is that surely if you're going to risk getting killed while riding a bike, you want to actually get fit. Because everyone says, e-bikes are great because you get to work and you haven't sweated all through your shirt. Because you haven't gotten fit. You've just risked dying for no health benefits. I mean, I would do that. For
nothing. Yeah.
I would do that because I'm a lazy slob, but then I wouldn't live any longer. My death would be inevitable.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be getting fitter. And I wouldn't be avoiding getting hit by a car.
I'm worried about, electrifying all this because there are electric scooters as well. What's next? An electric horse? I mean, that's what I'm worried that people are going to start riding. Some sort of electric horse that's got a battery in it to make it gallop even faster.
Has your child, or have your children got tricycles? Well, we haven't bought one for my daughter yet.
Yep.
I think the electric trike that's got to be a shocker.
The electric trike for toddlers. That's a brilliant idea.
Suddenly they press a button and they're just zooming across the and up a hill and into traffic.
Great idea.
At great speed.
Yes. I like that.
Because,
I
there's
like that very
scooters.
much.
I don't understand the deal with the electric scooters. Because every, JB Hi-Fi or whatever is full of these Segway or whatever they are, electrics, the 9-bot or whatever they're called, those electric scooters, which are apparently illegal in most places. Certainly in Sydney, you can't actually ride them anywhere. So I don't know who's buying them. What's the point of them?
Yeah, I think they're for people who don't realise they're illegal, who are the people you see on those annoying bloody electric scooters that knock you over on the bloody footpath.
Are they
I don't
imagining
think it's,
that the police will come, but they'll be so fast on their scooter that they'll get away?
Well, I think they might. They might get away. Yeah, exactly. And the police will be so busy reading the "Do Not Score Pot Here" house as well. I can imagine that the electric scooter would whiz on by and not be noticed at all.
Surely the burglars have another code for a house with a police officer in it.
What are you going to suggest, Tommy?
Maybe police officer inside, go away, or PIG.
Oh, no, that is disgraceful. That is a disgrace to our police force, Tommy, and I expect you to apologise immediately.
I apologise. And
Yeah.
I worry that, yes, that you don't want the police to write something outside your house, arrest for no reason.
No, you'd never see that happening. I've got one last one for you, Tommy. One last one that I think could be painted on every single house in the country, this one.
Oh, yeah.
Ultimately. HNUSCA.
Oh, that's
House no one... Yeah, this stands for House no one under 60 can afford.
Or, as it will soon become known, a house. Thank you very much, Andrew. Our Gear is from Road. We're part of the Acast Creator Network. We'll catch you next time.